It's like, oh, that.
Welcome, everybody, to the Dynasty Pulse exclusive premiere on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network, also aired on the Undroppables and Fantasy Football Plus Network. We got a great show tonight. We've got a special guest tonight, and it's from the football guys. Schultzy, let's bring him on. All right, everybody, welcome in. We have none other than Bob Harris joining us from Football Guys. Bob, welcome in. It is an honor having you on the show. All of us have been following you for years, and this is a special honor finally having you on the show. Welcome on. Tell us, everybody, what you're doing right now.
I'm sitting here right now enjoying the group. Looking forward to having a great show. You can find all my work at footballguys.com. It's a website of some renown. They do fantasy football stuff, and you'll like it all. Great staff there. I've spent many years working at Football Diehards with the Football Guys a year ago, and very happy I did. You'll also find me on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports and NFL radio throughout the season. If you want to miss me, it's going to be very difficult, so I apologize for that in advance.
Well, Bob, it's an honor having you on, and it is time to dig into the heart of the offseason where most of these impactful moves were made to reshape the landscape of dynasty football. So in this segment, we're going to be asking you to weigh in on some key trades, some signings, some player shifts that have caught the eye of fantasy managers across the league. So each of us will take our turn in digging into some decisions that are bound to have long-term implications. So Bob, with the expert insights you have, we're going to be kind of probing you on some of these questions here on these offseason moves. So we're going to start with Schultzy. Schultzy, let's get the ball rolling here, bud.
All right, Bob, here we go. All right, so everybody's favorite rookie running back landing spot in the Chargers. Like, you name a running back, everyone's like, I'd love to see this guy on the Chargers. Well, free agency came around, and they filled that hole with Najee Harris. He exploded on the scene as a rookie, 1,200 rushing yards, 74 receptions, which was kind of a surprise there, and 10 total touchdowns. He was the RB3. Now, we've never seen him really rise back to that solidified RB1 status. He's never eclipsed 4.06 yards per carry in any given season of his career, but on the flip side, he's literally never missed a game. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards every single season of his career in Pittsburgh. What are your personal expectations for Najee in like a run-oriented, run-first offense under Harbaugh here? I've never been huge on him myself, but I don't know. My gut's kind of telling me I think I should be buying back in at the price.
I root for all the Harrises, and you should be buying. I think the price is right. That's the key. If you're out there running through the best ball mean streets right now, like I am, he's a value still, and that's going to change. Anytime there's news and a shift, maybe a little overcompensation, but everyone will kind of cool down by the time the drafts that matter happen. And I think he'll probably continue going. Like right now, he's right outside the running back 2 price range. I think about 27 was the last I checked on Underdog Best Ball.
Yes, sir.
Feels about right. I would like to buy him at that price because I like my discounts. I think he'll be a solid running back 2 with maybe some upside for running back 1 weeks. I like the plotter reputation is a real thing. He's averaged 3.9 yards per carry on his career. Doesn't have that huge explosive breakaway rate. I think he's outside the top 20 in explosive runs. So, and that's career long, but there's things to like about him. 1,000 yards a year, 200 plus carries a year, no injuries. So all those things. And maybe that's one of the issues why they moved on from J.K. Dobbins, couldn't stay on the field quite enough. You mentioned the run-heavy offense. It's a better offensive line also that he had in Pittsburgh, and maybe it continue to improve. Arguably a better quarterback. Okay, inarguably a better quarterback. And they did down the stretch last year throw the ball more. I mean, there were, a number of games. Well, not like north of 40 attempts, but well over 30 attempts a game. And maybe that can open some things up for Harris a little bit more. I think you get a running back 2 finish out of him and hopefully at a running back 3 price, but expect it to be kind of probably borderline by the time things even out.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, Bob. And what about, maybe the Chargers looking elsewhere in the draft? This is a pretty deep draft class. Do you think that the Chargers are actually done in this landscape, adding to the running back room? We know that Kamani Vidal was kind of the darling of the offseason last year. People were really steaming him up, and he kind of just fizzled away, 5th round draft capital, not super big there. So what are your thoughts on the draft this year? Do you think the Chargers are done, or do you think they're settled in on Najee?
Look, sir, I didn't come here for Vidal slander. No way. No, I'm just kidding. I usually lead the way on the Vidal slander. Never was sold on him last year. So this is the thing. It is a deep class of running backs, and there's going to be a lot of day 3, a lot of guys that are drafted on teams that are going to be sexy names that we're all going to think are going to turn into things. And maybe one of them will. Betting on any of them to do that seems like a bit of a reach. I don't know that the Chargers are going to invest. Maybe they're happy with Kamani Vidal. I can remember talking to the Associated Press beat writer Joe Reedy, who covers that team on a daily basis. And we were trying to talk to him on Sirius, kind of shortly after the draft. And we were trying to steam up Vidal, and Joe Reedy's a very dry, glib kind of guy, and just like, oh yeah, he's going to be a great special teams player. And that's basically how it ended up, and that's how a lot of these late round running backs end up. So I'm not going to go overboard. I don't think they'll invest early, and I think they're kind of going to ride Najee at a really reasonable price and get the most out of him this season and see where it goes.
Yeah, so the inflection point on Najee is just kind of, hey, it's gotten cheap enough to where he can't hurt you as your RB2 anymore. And that feels like it's safe, but also Harbaugh is one for, Harbaugh and Greg Roman. They get bricked up in the cement aisle about them a good old fashioned workhorse running back. I mean, that's a unit Greg Roman, obviously Lamar changes the math on things, right? But Lamar, with Lamar in Baltimore, Greg Roman's outfits averaged about 2,800 yards a season in those 3 seasons that he was with Baltimore. And last year they ran the ball 463 times and, at about 1,800 yards, on the season, which is more reasonable with a quarterback that's not Lamar Jackson. Right. But I wanted to ask you, Bob, about the NFC West. Okay. And with Cooper Kupp signing with the Seahawks and DK being moved to the Steelers and Devontae Adams going to the Rams, I'll keep it short and sweet, brother. Okay. Which guy in 2025 do you think benefits the most from their change of scenery here?
It's Devontae Adams. With a capable quarterback, someone who like Matthew Stafford is not going to be any of our leading pieces for our fantasy titles, I don't think. Although the best ball shares at like quarterback 26 are pretty damn appealing given the supporting cast, right? And then, and not for nothing, Sean McVay, is pretty capable play caller. So I like the way they can scheme this up. Puka Nacua is going to remain, I don't see a change for Puka Nacua necessarily. I know there are concerns for people maybe going it like in an ideal world where I do get my discounts. Puka Nacua slides down in the second half of the first round. I mean, we can all remember what Blake Corum did to Kyron Williams draft price last year. I went, the panic set in. I have not seen that yet in the drafts I'm in. Puka's still going in the first half of the first round, and he should, right? But I will say, like Garrett Wilson was wide receiver 22 during the 11 games with Adams, and like a whole different dynamic. So, I mean, I think if there are people who are concerned about that and looking at those numbers and saying, oh, wow, maybe this is going to be a problem for Puka, I'll be all over Puka, but I think he stays right where he should be. And I think Devontae Adams, you buying him as a tail end wide receiver 2. The Rams over the course of time have supported 300,000 yard receivers at various times under Sean McVay. So I do think they have the personnel in place to support both those receivers. And I think Devontae Adams landed in a really good spot. Maybe the worst news for anybody is Kyron Williams. who is a solid goal line back, but so is Davante Adams. I'm guessing they'll be watching the film of his season at the Packers where, it's one step back, one step forward to a touchdown with the right quarterback, and a good veteran like Matthew Stafford can maybe take advantage of that. But either way, I think Adams is, of those guys, Adams looks like he landed in the best spot.
Beautiful. You love to see it. And that's just value insulation. Matthew Stafford is going to provide that, Bob. Puka Nacua is safe, and it just crystallizes him. It's funny enough how we had Malik Neighbors, who there was wins of the Giants going for Stafford. That would have flip-flopped Neighbors and Puka Nacua. But to your point, I'm in agreement with you. Davante Adams, 11 games played last year with the Jets, managed to be Davante Adams, wide receiver 11. Recall wide receiver 1 overall week 15 versus the Jaguars. He hung 42.8 points when you needed it the most. Davante Adams, 3rd in red zone targets, 9th in YAC, yards after catch, with 473 yards, 3rd in expected fantasy points per game at 21.6. At DD Fantasy Football, a 7.32 Trinity score. Anything above a 6 is spectacular. 43% air yard share, 2.07 yards per route run. And to your point, you were speaking about Najee Harris on Underdog. For Davante Adams, Bob, wide receiver 21 on Underdog right now in round 4. So I really love that. Grindberg, what do you got for Bob?
All right. Daniels? Well, Bob, I just moved Jayden Daniels into my number 1 QB spot in Dynasty after his incredible rookie season where he threw for 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, and added, 864 rushing yards, another 6 rushing touchdowns, dual threat ability, 70% completion percentage, 4 game-winning drives, combined with the Commanders' key offseason moves like trading for Laramie Tunsil and adding Deebo Samuel. Am I crazy for making this leap? How do you view his situation stacking up in Dynasty landscape, especially with his age, the supporting cast around him, and, what he's doing right now in the NFL?
Yeah, in Dynasty, that's perfectly defensible. In fact, it's probably the default here. I know football guys, our colleague Jason Wood his initial projections, redraft projections, had Jayden Daniels at 1. I thought that was a little aggressive. Bold, but I'm not afraid of bold. And you look at the rushing equity, but I do think it's easier to make the case in redraft for Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, right? Just the proven track record. And in fact, Josh Allen doesn't fall outside the top 3. It might happen with Lamar on occasion or two. So I think those guys are in the steadier place, but you're paying the premium for that. I know right now in best balls, they're both round 3 guys with Daniels slipping into round 4. I think that's probably about right. In Dynasty, though, taking Daniels 1 overall on a team where, look, they're building around him. They are leaning all in on the rookie contract, as they should. This is the path to success. So I love it. Laramie Tunsil move is a great move. I'll say, Tunsil hasn't been led the NFL in overall penalties and false starts last year. It sounds, the reporting out of Houston was he's not a tone setter, I think was the phrase they used. Not that. Well, that can change, right? Like I keep thinking Adam Peters, the GM there, he was in San Francisco and they landed Trent Williams 5 years ago, and Trent Williams wasn't viewed as very much. Well, turns out he was something, maybe the best offensive lineman ever to play the game. So, I'm not saying that's going to happen with Tunsil, but that's clearly they're trying to follow a similar path, adding Deebo Samuel. I'm not huge on him, but I think he's way better than the guys they had there. They still kept some of the downfield speed. They bring Zach Ertz back. There's a lot to like here. The 891 rushing yards last season, probably being the first thing I should have mentioned. Thinking of him adding to that a little bit. He's the guy who can break off those 80-yard runs. I mean, he's just, to me, this is the total upside play. And in Dynasty, I'll make an argument. Well, I'm not going to make the argument, but I could see people being really interested in Joe Burrow being locked in with those frontline receivers now for, the long haul. I like that an awful lot. And I don't know if he's going to throw 43 touchdowns a year, but he damn well might. But Jayden Daniels is a clear-cut number 1. You had it right, Grindberg.
I'm going to jump in here real quick. Bob, thank you for coming on the show. Good to see you. I'm the dude that ran to you like a crazy person in the restaurant at the Cleveland airport and was like, so good to meet you. We don't have to repeat that this year in Canton because now.
No, do it again. I like that part.
Now we're best friends. And I just flew in from FFPC, and boy, my arms are tired. There's one thing that I have said, and that is, if you want to find your way onto my fantasy roster, be liked by Adam Peters. And he's a genius in my opinion. And I'm in on Debo this year.
I'm not going to go that far, but I'm not as out on him as I was. Like right there, I feel like it's possible. He just needs to change the scenery, right? It felt like there wasn't a lot of high, like maybe the Wana was lacking last year. I don't accuse anyone of stepping back, but I mean, he demanded the ball more. They gave him the ball more. He didn't do things with it that he needed to. It seemed like a tough season.
He was down to a 20% snap share last year, which was a 6 or 7% decrease over the previous couple of years. The Commanders, that was close. Commanders gave him a bag, said, "We got a lot of confidence in you." Peters knows how to use him. They offloaded the guys that he would be competing with at position, and the way that his ADP is structured right now in like the low 40s, I can see a top 36 finish out of him, and I like the value. So
you're saying Zach Ertz isn't the wide receiver 2 anymore?
No. That give Debo a 27% target share, and he's going to be right back in the top in the wide receiver 3 conversation.
Hey, go back to Daniels real quick. I'm with Grindberg. He's got to be the dynasty one. And I was going to talk about, I mean, Bob, you mentioned a little bit, there's a path that he is the QB1 this year. I mean, he was just the QB5. So it's not even, as a rookie, it's not even a far jump. He showed the arm ability with the 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He keeps the ball safe. 25th in the league in danger plays, was only 17 of them. 26th in the league in interceptable passes of 12. So only 3 of those, with the 9 picks, he threw 12 interceptable ones. So it's not like he's, got a ton of them that could have been picked. First in completion rating versus zone, 78%. He added, we talked about the protection we added. We talked about Debo. Some of these short yak kind of routes, we were running through De'Ami Brown, right? Insert Debo Samuel. 8.7 rushes a game for Jayden Daniels. And these are numbers that are brought down by week 7, where he took 3 carries against Carolina on 14% snaps when he got hurt. A week 10 game where he only carried 3 times against a pretty solid Pittsburgh defense. And then week 18, 4 carries in a 45% snap game. So he's got 3 games really bringing that rushing number down. This could be looking at double-digit rushes a game next season. And the final cherry for me here, 39 red zone carries last year. Good for 2nd in the league. That's massive.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. All right, bigz. You're latecomer. You're now in the queue. Let's give Bob your question here, bud.
Yeah. So through this free agent season, we had a trade. Geno Smith going to Las Vegas, reunited with Pete Carroll. It's a Chip Kelly offense, and it features generational Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, who had a 1,000-yard year last year and is good for 100, 120 targets if he runs out of the slot. They also have Trey Tucker, who's a pretty good deep threat. There's also an improved offensive line situation in Las Vegas over Seattle. Are there underlying indicators that you can find with Geno Smith that would make him a value to acquire?
Yeah, he's plenty cheap right now. The shift in Vegas is obvious. They're shifting to a thing called competence. Imagine that. And I think the hiring of Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly. I think you look over the course of time, his evolution as kind of an innovator, an outsider, a game changer kind of guy, has kind of morphed into hey, let's run that pro style offense we all love. And then, and they bring in a guy to run it, and Geno Smith, and all the things you said. I love all those pieces. Jacoby Myers will end up again being one of my most rostered players just because the price is right. The production always exceeds it. Brock Bowers, I mean, you're not raising the ceiling, people. It's right where it is. He just broke a record that's as old as me, and that's saying something. Yeah, I like all that. I mean, Geno Smith to me is I think I wanted to say I was just looking on Underdog before we played because I was just drafting there. I want to say he's well into the what is he 24 quarterback 24 right now?
27.
27. Yeah, he's even lower. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's a great spot in Dynasty. I mean, he's probably this is at least a couple of years of him as a starter, I would think, and maybe more if he can excel. He's not a young guy, but for all the pieces around him, which I'm way more interested in, I think this is a great move. And those pieces are Bowers and, for now, Jacoby Myers. Right? And I think, I've talked to people in Vegas and a lot of them are wish casting Genty as the 6th pick overall. And I'm on board with that. Let's go. Let's get it. I think there are other possible outcomes here. Like Pete Carroll, loves his guys. Maybe Zach Charbonnet is a guy that could be available in a trade with Seattle. Another move. We'll see. Anything's possible. But whoever it is, the thing you love about Pete Carroll is he gets his guy and he sticks with his guy, even when he gets another guy that's really good. That guy waits until the first guy can't do it. And then the new guy gets his shot. So, I mean, that predictability and competence Pete Carroll brings and don't think for one second that somewhere a new minority owner, Tom Brady, doesn't have a hand in all this because Mark Davis can't even figure out how to get a haircut. I don't think he's running a team properly.
Hey, funny enough, on market right now, just current Underdog price you were speaking to, Bob, Geno Smith, QB 27. Just behind him, 4 picks later, Sam Darnold, QB 28.
The Raiders are my favorite value stack on Underdog right now.
Yeah, it's fair.
I mean, there's a lot of meat on the bone here with Geno Smith. I mean, we're talking about a guy who had a 70% completion percentage, threw for over 4,300 yards. I mean, he's 6th in the league in big-time throws per PFF at 28 big-time throws. He was tied for 10th with Josh Allen in turnover-worthy plays, but I would attribute quite a bit of that to him just eventually short-circuiting because of the Swiss cheese O-line that the Seahawks had in 2024. So I really do like the fact that they went and traded for a veteran that, can operate an offense if you give him any semblance of support. I mean, we just saw the JSN breakout. He should further the Brock Bowers' generational propaganda that we currently are in the state of. And if they decide to draft Ashton Genty at 6 or they add to the running back room with any sort of body that's not Sincere McCormick or 32-year-old Amir Abdullah. I mean, this
Amir
is
White.
Yeah, don't do that. We're not just going to lie to the people on camera.
I just dropped him today.
That's soft serve in the sauna right there.
Yeah, we are here for the Zamir White slander. All about that.
Yeah,
freezer aisle
makes me sadder than thinking about 2024 Zamir White. Yeah, full soft serve in the sauna when I think about the Raiders running back room and them adding someone to that look, if they get Ashton Genty, I will build a tent in the cement aisle and I'll never leave. Because we know that Chip Kelly's going to establish it. And we know that Pete Carroll's going to let him establish it. And when two guys that want to establish it come together, we're in the cement aisle, boys.
I love it. Okay, Coach, let's get a question here for Bob.
Oh, you're talking to me?
Yeah, you're the coach.
Hey, you talking to me? All right. So, Bob, Ashton Genty, Devon Achane, it's funny, neck and neck in redraft ADP, see Underdog. Genty, actually today, it flipped. I saw in the last couple days, Genty, Bob, is RB4. He's usurped Devon Achane as RB5. And then across Dynasty platforms, neck and neck. A couple questions. Which running back do you prefer? Do you prefer the proven rocket ship in Devon Achane, who was healthy last year, or the we know for sure this guy will hit prospect in Ashton Genty? And Bob, do you have any past lessons you've learned when broached with this type of decision from past can't miss prospects versus proven commodities?
Oh, yes, I have. And we all have, right? I mean, these are all lessons we've all learned. And the proven commodity at a cheaper price is something I will always 99% of the time prefer, right? And like, that's not to say, I see anything wrong with Genty. I'm just old enough to remember Bijan Robinson, who was far exceeded by Jahmyr Gibbs, who a similar draft capital, similar kind of role, and a different offense, but still fourth round instead of a first round pick, right? So, and look, we saw that last year at receiver with Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. So, I mean, like, I'm all about that, but in this case, we've also seen in the past, can go back a few years, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, arrives in Kansas City, the ADP rocket was strapped to his ass, and boom, he shoots up to 6 overall, and was not that great of a year. So, like, I do think Genty's going to be great, and if he lands with the Raiders, I'm going to be super excited. Am I going to burn a 4th, 5th, 6th pick on him? No, I'm going to wait around for Devon Achane all day long, if that's the case. So I just think he'll probably get priced out of where I'm going to be comfortable taking him. I'm in enough drafts that I'll snag a share or two just to have some exposure. But I won't be going out of my way to land him probably in, regardless of landing spot.
We do have breaking news. The Arkansas Razorbacks have just upset number 7 Kansas in the NCAA tournament. Woo Pig and sorry, proceed.
What is that, basketball? You guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea what he's talking about
that?
there. Yeah.
Go Hogs.
Yeah.
That's
never
awesome.
John Calipari, never ever, not even if there was a fire, not even if, never mind. Anyway,
I don't have a choice.
We're disturbing our time with Bob, and I don't want to do that with Calipari propaganda.
No kidding. All right. Well, that was a great segment. Let's move on to section 4 here, which is our uncut gems ready to shine in Dynasty. So we're going to highlight undervalued players who are flying under the radar, but are primed for a breakout. So we're going to pick a player that we're thinking that is going to have a lot more value at this time next year. Bob, our guest of honor here, who is your player that you are looking at getting in a lot of these Dynasty startups or people that you're trying to trade for? What's your situation and who you got on your radar here?
I'll be looking for some Brenton Strange in Jacksonville, right? Like, just a position of scarcity where, just the dearth of high-end play available has me looking for anybody who's going at cheaper than they should at the position that has a legitimate role. Liam Cohen comes over there. We saw when there was not Mike Evans, Kate Otten come on strong and demand like a 20+% target share. We have Michael Thomas there. I'm sure Parker Washington will be good. I'm sure they'll add somebody else more notable than that. But for right now, I think Brenton Strange is probably a guy who is going to earn his way to a significant target share and at least is a sleeper in drafts. Whether he emerges, it's going to be kind of on him. I thought we saw signs of it last year until we didn't. I know we'll probably talk about other tight ends we could say the same about. So that would be the one I'll go with for right now is Brenton Strange.
Biggs, you got a comment on that?
Well, Bob's not the only one looking for Strange in Jacksonville. I liked Brenton Strange a lot last year, especially when he filled in for Evan Ingram. I still have high hopes for Trevor Lawrence and what he can do. And with, a couple of weapons to take some pressure off, I think Brenton Strange can have a pretty fantastic year. And we are always looking for the next name in tight end. So breaking into a top 12 tight end finish, I can see that happening.
Yeah, and there's quite a bit of vacated targets there in Jacksonville. And we're going to see them having to, use that safety blanket, and Strange came in and, there's some athleticism there that is going under the radar. So I definitely like that call. Schultzy, what's your sleeper? And I want to know why.
Well, before I tell you that, I'm going to tell you there are a lot of targets to be had in Jacksonville, and they're all going to Brian Thomas. Yeah, no, every single one of them is just like, give the ball to BTJ. That's just the play.
Literally dozens.
Well, if they're watching last year's film, that's exactly what happened down the stretch, and it'll likely happen again. But we'll see if it plays out that way. It's possible, but not all of them. A couple goal line targets for my guy.
All right, fair. All right, I'm going to go over here to some Josh Palmer. Just signed over with the Bills. And I think his kind of, a deep threat guy over there in, I almost said San Diego, Los Angeles, get 15.2 average depth of target for him last year for 7th in the league. And when you look at that combined with Keon Coleman, who was 15.2 also. So they're number 7 and number 8 respectively. And Keon was just not impressive as a rookie, right? Caught 29 passes, And here's a stat from Player Profiler. His target quality rating, number 1 in the league for Keon. And he couldn't produce with it. You look at Josh Palmer, he's been hidden in a running offense. Fantasy points data had him at 10th out of 160 qualifying receivers last year in route win rate. And when you compare that to any receiver on the Bills last year, would have been Amari Cooper at 61st. So this guy he's doing a good job in his deep, his posts, his streaks, his digs, getting down the field. And he's been a good deep threat. And I think he's going to fit right in with the Bills. You could tell this offense missed Gabe Davis really bad last year. And that's a wild sentence to say, right? But Josh Allen just didn't have that guy that he could rely on downfield. And I think we're going to see a step from Josh Palmer this year.
Yeah. I think anyone who plays with Josh Allen is in line for a step forward. And that might include Keon Coleman. But they do different things. And Palmer, what I want to say, the last 2 seasons averaged 15 yards a catch. That's, that deep threat is something they missed. You mentioned Gabe Davis's departure. Now he'll try to replace the nearly irreplaceable Mac Hollins, and who knows how he'll be able to do that. But I do like this receiving core to me is like dying for somebody to step up and emerge is somebody who becomes not named Khalil Shakir, who's Josh Allen's favorite downfield threat. I felt like Allen really tried to force it to Coleman last year and really tried to push it and showed a lot of faith in him and a lot of confidence when maybe he shouldn't have. But Coleman's never going to be that, race down the field guy. He's going to be contested catch guy. So everyone can have their little role. I think Palmer's a great pickup, or in my case, a hold in the many dynasty leagues where I never release wide receivers ever.
Awesome.
I was doing some research on Jack Besh, and I came across that he's the player profiler comp for Besh is Joshua Palmer.
Interesting.
All right, Chev, what do you got for us?
Yeah, my player that I just can't quit. I was a big fan, and noted IUD rearranger Steve Smith was a big fan of this guy as well. And so my player is Jalen Coker. I love what I saw last year, and I've been going around offering like late thirds, not early thirds, because I've been saying get as many picks in the second and third round this year as you possibly can as a dynasty owner. But I've been offering late thirds because I think this is the year that Jalen Coker continues to come to the promise continues to come to fruition. So my player is Jalen Coker, and I'm curious to know your thoughts about that.
The Coke heads are a real thing. More real than he was last year. There's talent there. It's true. Bryce Young is a player that I think turned the corner. He finally became the thing that they said they drafted. This fast processing guy that's able to beat the blitz and do all kinds of stuff. The switch flipped for him. Maybe Dave Canales is a super quarterback motivator and coacher. But whatever the case, he's going to need good weapons around him. I think anytime Adam Thielen there, it's going to be a limiting factor for everyone else, just because he's like that. But I do, it's a young receiving core, and I think there are 3 pieces there that have viability. Coker's absolutely one of them. If I'm in Dynasty, it's a much better play to me. We'll see what Xavier Legette is. But I think they're kind of like, I know they prefer Xavier Legette based on draft capital expended to be, to become more of a thing. I don't know that he will. I don't know that the Panthers have demonstrated a great ability to draft wide receivers.
Absolutely. I thought that, okay, so I feel like Xavier Legette was miscast into using him as a downfield outside wide receiver. They had him in the slot early, and then they moved him outside. Game-losing drops, all that stuff. I was a big Xavier Legette guy, so I don't take pride in saying this, but I also love the opportunity that Jalen Coker carved out for himself. And I don't think they're going to put that genie back in the bottle with all of the returning pieces on the coaching staff that they have and the rapport and the things that Bryce Young has said in the offseason. So I appreciate that, Bob.
Awesome. I'm going to talk about one of my sleepers, and it's a third-year breakout, which bigz likes to talk about all the time.
Heck yeah.
I'm going to talk about Marvin Mims, and I just think that late season surge in 2024 revealed just how much upside he actually holds. What makes him even more exciting for me is that the Broncos, they traded up for him in 2023. Remember, a couple of years back, it was Sean Payton's first pick with the team with limited draft capital, and the Broncos, they made that bold move to secure him. And you know what? He had some growing pains his first season, hardly making on the field. But I think that now he's got that potential to, play a hybrid joker role in that offense. He had 53 combined PPR points over his last 2 games, 2 touchdowns in that Kansas City game, 20 plus PPR points in 3 of his last final games, and also 5.1 targets per game over his last 5. I think that this is a sign of things to come. His late season surge, coupled with the natural ability to stretch the field, positions him as an undervalued gem in Dynasty. And I think that, he has wide receiver 3 upside, wide receiver 2 at times. And I think that he could have a role this year. So I'm interested to see what you have to say about that there, Bob.
He has the thing that you need the most in Denver, which is Sean Payton's apparent attention. Right. And I think that, that cannot be overlooked. Like, look what it did for Bo Nix. Jaleel McLaughlin is another guy who just keeps on keeping on because Sean Payton has a thing for whether it's their type or those players in particular. And he is like, when I'm sitting there and I, watch Broncos coverage and pay attention to it, I pay attention to what I've always paid attention to with the Saints. Sean Payton gives it away. He tells you what he wants. And then it's on the player to get the job done. I think in a case like a developmental player like Marvin Mims, like that's all I need, man. I look at the speed, the talent, and I see a coach, and I see that so something we don't think enough about. I don't think as fantasy managers is what does the team want to happen, right? Like I don't know that makes it guaranteed that it's going to happen. Some of it's on the player, some of it's on circumstances. But if I know what the team wants, I'm willing to invest something in that in a talented player who has a lot of speed and some ability.
Yeah, and that's why I have him pegged there. I think the opportunity is going to be there for him this year. Yeah, they might bring in some, talent in the draft. They just brought in Evan Ingram, who obviously is going to, play that, that power slot role really, which could, eat up some targets like you mentioned for Marvin. But I still think that, wide receiver 2 upside there has some potential, especially a couple big boom games like he has. And, they design plays for him as well. So, there's a lot of upside around him. Who's next on the docket here?
Just quickly, I think if you listen to the people who cover the team closely, I work with Steve Salami, who also covers the Broncos an awful lot. They will tell you he likes that entire receiving core way more than people realize.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, bigz, your turn, my man.
All right. I'm kind of looking for adding a lot of Javon Baker shares to my portfolio. You have a situation where you have a rookie who comes in and does absolutely nothing, and makes him a hard outlier for production down the road. But I like the situation that he's in New England, especially considering the fact that this year they're going to have a new offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels and a new head coach in Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel, more defensive-minded guy, he's probably going to unleash a lot of the offense onto Josh McDaniels and say, look, you just take care of this side, and like Belichick, I'll take care of the other side. Javon Baker does have at least a season of practice reps with Drake May. Whether or not he did anything with that opportunity last year is not, it's apparent that he didn't. But there are some underlying metrics from his college production that I really like. He exceeds some thresholds. He has over 5.5. He has 5.56 yak per reception, which isn't great, but you want to be over 5. Yards per route run was 2.53, which is pretty fantastic. And first downs per route run was over 0.1. So those are the kinds of things that I like to see. He ran 80% of his college routes out wide. So he's not really like a fixed slot player. I just like the potential that with some of his underlying metrics he can bring to the field. And especially with a new offense and a young quarterback in Drake May, I feel like at his value right now, go grab him, and you're not going to pay much to find out in 2 years that he is a nothing burger. Because at this point, that looks like what he's going to be. But I see a lot of upside there.
I saw 4 catches. No, 1 catch, 4 targets.
Yeah.
I do think. I mean, you hear people who cover the team closely say he's the most talented receiver on the roster. I mean, like it's a low bar. But I like the quarterback. I like the situation. It all depends on who they bring in. I thought Jalen Polk got his opportunities last year, didn't make the most of them, didn't demonstrate the ability to stay on the field. I need to see a lot more, but I am willing to invest in a guy with that talent and that college resume because he's going to be cheap. And I love the discount. I love the upside with the discount. So I'm not against it. This is more an investment in Drake May, though, than it would be in Javon Baker.
Fair. That's fair.
All right, Coach.
7 hours of commercial-free football starts right now. 7 hours of commercial-free football. Sorry. I glitched, man. I glitched. It's been a long off season so far. Let me get locked in on Chig Okonkwo.
Move it along, Hanson.
Yes, sir. Chig Okonkwo, tight end 6 and tight end 2 in back-to-back weeks 15 and 16, 10 and 11 targets respectively. 4 top 12 tight end games when you accordion it out to the entire season in 2024 for Chig. In those 2 weeks that I highlighted, 15 and 16, an 804 Trinity score. DD Fantasy Football above a 6 is great. 16.5 PPR points per game for Chig, 28% air yard share, 29% target share. Cam Ward or any quarterback improvement locks in Chig Okonkwo. We love Calvin Ridley and his 6'2 Trinity score. Love his 38% air yard share. Love the ADP, Bob, on Underdog. Calvin Ridley, 6'7 turn as wide receiver 39. So Okonkwo goes as tight end 31 in round 19. It's like the Unforgivable sketch where he's like, make me a chicken sandwich and some waffle fries for free. You're getting Chig Okonkwo both free. So price point in Dynasty, KTC trades you can make. Ready? Chig for Theo Johnson. Chig for a 26th third-round pick. These are all easy points of entry if you want to add Chig Okonkwo in Dynasty. And I particularly like Chig Okonkwo this year. What do you think, Bob?
There are 2 things you cannot coach in the NFL. That's size and speed. He has more of both of those things than the guys who will be trying to cover him. So I like that part of it. I'm not enamored with the quarterback situation, but I do like the coaches. I like a lot. I feel like Chig Okonkwo is the new Juwan Johnson. I mean, we're all going to be waiting for him to turn into a more consistent producer. And at some point he will or he won't. For right now, I'm willing to invest in it because it is so dirt cheap that it's hard for me not to. Hopefully they do add some quarterback or figure something out at quarterback or get the offense more on track or whatever it takes. But I was in on those. I was in on those week 15 and 16 games. And I just only wish he could have carried it over to week 17 when I really needed him to do it.
Oh, tough. It's funny. It's kind of like Tajay Spears, too. He had such an excellent run up until he got hurt there week 17.
Right.
Question, Bob, though. Cam Ward, does he solve the equation for the quarterback improvement for a Chig Okonkwo, or are you just a little bit not near as enamored?
Does he eat bananas with the skin on? I don't know.
He does not. Can confirm.
Okay, can't confirm. No mayonnaise endorsements either. So I like him already a little better. I think he would be an upgrade, and I think they're heading for one.
So would you be in on Calvin Ridley then? You're Underdog. You're drafting. Do you like him at ADP?
Yeah, wide receiver 1s that I'm buying as wide receiver 4s, sure.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Well, that concludes our roundabout. Does anybody have any other rapid questions for Bob before we let him go for the evening?
Treylon Burks. I'm sorry.
Hey, I do want to say, Bob, I do appreciate your injury rundown, breakdown throughout the season, those short shows that you have. I really enjoy them. I'll be at the gym and just caught up real quick, the big storylines. So just want to say, when we tap into fantasy football for the people that we tune into, a lot of special moments, at the gym, in the car, on beautiful walks. You're a part of that, and I really do appreciate that. So
I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words. It's like, we're lucky to get to do the things we do and get people's attention and talk about things. I think one of the things that you guys are doing here that is like kind of a common theme in the industry. We're just guys who started doing this and end up, talking football to like-minded people. It's kind of easy when you're preaching to the choir, but also it's not. You're not fooling anybody. Everybody knows everything you're talking about, and you're not sneaking one past the goalie on anything here. You better know what you're talking about and better have done your research. You guys clearly do that. So it's been a pleasure being on with you. And I look forward to the next visit.
Well, I had a run-in last night, not a run-in, but I had a customer last night who came into the store I was working at, and he's a guy that I've known for about 35 years. I haven't seen him in a little bit, and he's a barber. So the last time I needed a haircut, I was in his barber chair and we were talking football, and we always talk sports and we watch sports together. We used to play college football on Sega together. And so he was talking to my brother, and my brother mentioned that I was doing this, and he was like, that is the most natural fit for Brendan. And so he came into the store and he was like, so I heard you've been like podcasting and stuff. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, there's nothing better for you to do. And I was like, thank you. I appreciate that. It was a pretty good moment.
And we're doing this thing. I mean, I know, like, I can go back to 1986 when I started playing fantasy and realized there wasn't enough information to do this. But thinking about creating or turning it into a business was seemed like the clearest path to anything possible, because you deal with people, you talk with people, everyone who you run into who plays the game loves it as much as you, right? Because that's the joy of the game. The hobby is so fantastic. So it's really cool being able to have cobbled together, a run where all I have to do is sit around and talk to like-minded people who love the same things I love. And even when you're arguing about something, you're doing it because you enjoy that part of it too. It's just been a great kind of thing. But I'll say this, people, especially Dynasty people, there's a level of understanding and knowledge, I mean, that goes a little bit beyond the regular fan. So you do have to bring the heat, and again, if you don't know when somebody makes a Treylon Burks joke, everyone is going to know what it's about, right? You can make those jokes and without any fear of them flopping, because everyone knows exactly what it is. I love that part of this.
One thing to add there, Bob, is one thing about you is that, even as people coming up the ranks, interacting with you, you've always been an interactor with anybody within following your platforms. Like I remember following you and Tip on a Twitter feed and just, tuning in, only there could have been 100 people, could have been 20 people. But as soon as I put something in the chat, you're first to talk about it, talk about the question and answer it. And it makes people like us that are working their way up really know that there's an end goal, and people like you embracing us into the space has been a really big part of our success. And we appreciate you coming onto our show and continuing to build our brand. And it's a huge honor.
Kind of you to say all that, and it's a huge honor to be on. Look, I love every opportunity. I like to take every rep. That's something I think that cannot be underestimated. Is you get opportunities, you take them. I love doing it, and I hope you guys have me back. I appreciate it.
Where do you stand on fishbowl mock drafts?
I'll do one or two.
Okay, well, make sure you do them on our show.
Summer of Fish, sign them up.
I don't like to overdo it, because I go in two things. I'm horrible at Scott Fish. I might be the world's worst Scott Fish bowler. It's close. If I'm not the worst, I'm in the bottom 5% for sure. But that doesn't mean I don't love it, because I do love it. But I take chances, and I really try to ratchet and leverage the weird scoring, and in every case I overdo it. So I'll look forward to coming on and over ratcheting whatever the scoring system is this year.
We'll try and get you on when we have Scott on too.
Perfect. I love
awesome.
Scott.
Okay, Bigz, wrap us up like you always do so well.
Well, I want to thank all you guys for watching. Make sure that you like and subscribe and all that stuff. Thank you to Bob for coming on the show at Football Die Hard. You can find all this stuff. I guarantee you finish better in the fishbowl 14 than I did. And we will see all of you guys in our next episodes, and we hope you win.
Hope you win, folks.
Hope you win.